Hey guys, solo raids have been out for a little bit over a week at this point, and I definitely have thoughts to share. Now, going into it, I was a little bit worried about solo raids and what it would do to the game, and I'll go into that a little bit later. But overall, I think that solo raids have been such a great addition to the game, and it's brought so much more life back into the game from both old players and new players combined. And I want to talk about my thoughts and what I think are really great about solo raids, but also areas that I think solo raids could improve upon. So let's get started. Let's start with the good. I think that the best thing about solo raids is that it gives so many new players the opportunities to actually play the game. Let's face it, Lost Ark is not an easy game. And on top of that, because of how many raids we have and just the mentality that people have in the game, for people who are not very good at the game or people who don't have as much time to play the game, those people end up getting gatekept very often. And as a result, they can't even play the game that they want with the time that they have. Now, with the addition of solo raids, so many people have been able to actually play the game because they don't have to worry about Party Finder. They don't have to worry about gatekeeping, and they can just play on their own time, and they don't have to wait for other people to come and play with them. People who weren't able to get in or didn't want to get into group raids can now actually play the game and progress, and that is wonderful. On top of that, I think that these raids are actually fairly close to the actual group raids in their mechanics and playstyle. Now, certain things are dumbed down a little bit to make things easier to do solo or just easier to understand, but at the same time, I think that there's enough in there that many players playing this will, one, be challenged, but two, also be on their way to learning the actual group version of the raid. That way, when they actually go into the group version, they can watch a video or two and pretty quickly pick up the mechanics and actually get started playing with other people. So, all in all, wonderful for new players and returning players alike. But what about the veterans? Well, for veterans like myself, I think it's a great way to do card runs. There are quite a few raids out there like Vicus, Vaulton, maybe even Clown that not many people run anymore. But because solo raids exist now, if you have some extra time, you can actually go and run these raids for cards. And that is a big change compared to before, where either A, you had to get a whole group together to do these card runs, or B, you just weren't able to do them at all. You can just do these whenever you have the time and actually get some cards out of the way, including the old Legion raid cards. You can focus farm those. And on top of that, you can actually use this as a way to get raids out of the way at the end of the week. Let's say you went through an entire week, shoot, you have a couple raids left you weren't able to do. Well, now you actually have an opportunity to get these raids out of the way real quickly to get some of the gold back, and of course the mats. And on top of this, the thing that I am most thankful for is that people still do group raids. This was what I was mentioning earlier when I was saying that I was worried about solo raids, because I thought that if there were enough people doing solo raids, it would actually make the Party Finder experience so much worse for other players. Because if solo raids are extremely good, so many people are going to be doing solo raids to a point where the Party Finder is actually going to have a lot less people. Now, I'm not going to say that it doesn't have any effect on Party Finder at all. I was looking at the Party Finder a little bit before and after. There is some effect onto it. But I think that because of the amount of gold that it gives, at least for veteran players, most people still prefer to do the group raids if they were running group raids already. And lastly, I think that solo raids are actually just pretty fun to do. I think that they're a great alternative to doing group raids in terms of the fun aspect. As I mentioned earlier, it's a lot of the similar mechanics and a lot of the similar attack patterns, except that you are doing it solo, and on top of that, the counter system in solo raids is actually chef's kiss. I actually wish and hope that in the future they make this more of a thing in the group raids, because hitting that counter feels so satisfying and so rewarding compared to normal group raids, that I really wish that in a normal group raid, if somebody were to hit that counter, it would feel exactly like that. And oh yeah, there's actually one more thing. I know I said that was the last thing, but there's actually one more thing that's not exactly directly related to solo raids, but that is the solo raid shop. As I mentioned, it's not like exactly solo raids, but it's really kind of a I don't know, like a unintended consequence or benefit that comes out of solo raids, because now that we have this new solo raid shop, we actually have such juiced rewards in there that for the most part, in the past with the old system, I really wasn't using that raid shop very often. And now I find myself going in there every single week on multiple characters and actually find myself starting to run shorter and shorter on those coins. While I'm not like down bad for coins, I can actually see the amount of coins in my inventory going down over the past week. So overall, huge W for solo raids. But of course, with everything good, there also comes some bad. And it's not necessarily bad, but it's just things that I would love for them to improve on going forward with this system. And if they can fix these things or make them better, I think solo raids will actually be a 10 out of 10 for me. So first thing, back attackers. We're unsure at the moment if the entropy buff that makes it so that you can be hitmaster no matter where you hit from is bugged or not, but at the moment you cannot take advantage of that buff and hit back attacks and front attacks from anywhere, because you're going to be losing out on a significant portion of your damage from your ambush master or master brawler engravings and your entropy set. While it still gives you the crit chance and probably the small bit of bonus damage that you get from hitting a front attack or a back attack, the engravings and the set bonuses are completely ignored when it comes to that buff. Now, there's been zero communication from AGS or Smilegate about this, so at this point, I'm actually thinking it might be intended to be this way, which is a huge shame. I think as it stands now, back attackers are definitely bad for solo raids. It's not like you can't clear it, but the amount of time that you will take to clear solo raids, it's definitely much longer than what it would take for a Hitmaster class or a front attacker. And on that same note, I think that supports still need to be worked on. And I think supports is a whole other ordeal other than just damage. See, while they did buff the amount of damage that supports do with the most recent patch, I still don't think that it's at the level of any of the DPS classes. But on top of that, I don't think that it's actually a very good system for supports, because if you think about it this way, as a DPS, when you're playing solo raids, you are doing your normal job in that raid, which is DPSing. And on top of that, you're learning a little bit about how to DPS, where to DPS, when to greed patterns, and things like that. So you're actually actively building your skills in doing those solo raids for when you actually go out to the normal raids. But as a support, you are not doing that at all, since you are playing a DPS build. You're playing a support as a DPS, and you're not actually learning how to play your class. The one thing that maybe you are learning is brand up time, because when you don't have the brand up on the boss, you're doing a significantly less amount of damage. But that's just one part of playing a support. Anybody who's playing a support, especially as their main, is probably not looking to play a DPS class, so they're probably, as a result, enjoying the game a lot less when they're playing solo raids, because that's not what they signed up for. And on top of that, they're not practicing any of the important skills that you actually need as a support. As mentioned many times in the past, the support is the most important role in the entire party. And when you have a bad support, oh boy, you can feel it. So I was kind of hoping that this would actually help supports learn how to play their class a little bit more, and that way when they get out to the normal raid setting, they're actually a little bit better than what they were before if they had not played the solo raids. But at this moment, you actually don't get to play a support as a support in these solo raids, and I think that's a shame. And I think anybody who signed up to play a support or main support would definitely agree with my sentiment. Now, moving on, I think that the balance of the raids themselves are okay, but there's some raids that are a little bit too easy, like I think Kaya's pretty dang easy, or Khan's pretty dang easy, and actually there are some raids that I've heard are quite challenging on item level, like Clown. I've heard quite a few people who I think are pretty good at the game who have tried doing Clown on item level and actually had quite a rough time doing Gate 3. So I think there's some weird balancing stuff going on, which Korea has addressed, and they have said that they're going to be looking at how difficult the raids are and will be adjusting them accordingly. And last but not least, the thing that I think needs to be addressed the most is definitely the gold that you get from the raids. Now, I know, in the past, I was actually on the side of perhaps not giving even any gold for this. But when you think about the new player experience, a lot of the new players are going to be just playing the solo raids. And if they want to progress, they definitely don't get enough gold from the solo raids themselves. And I've also made a video talking about this before, so I'll leave that in the description below. But yes, solo raids do not give enough gold for anybody to just rely on them solely to push up their characters. Now, I'm not saying that people should just play solo raids and not even think about their group raids at all. Like I said in the good section, I was actually worried that solo raids would take away from group raids too much. But I think that for new players who are just getting their feet wet with the game, they probably don't want to dive headfirst into the toxic cesspool known as group raids, and the people there will probably just flame them if they don't know what they're doing. So I think that the solo raids, again, are just an excellent way for new players to get their feet wet into the game. But the problem is, if a new player is doing the same solo raids over and over again for week after week, they're probably going to get bored of the game and stop playing at some point because they're not progressing to a point where they can actually do higher item level raids. So I really think that the gold issue needs to be addressed for solo raids. Now, Korea has said that they're not addressing it, but I really hope that in the future there will be more people talking about it and getting them to make changes like they did with elixirs, like they did with the transcendence. I personally think that if I were in the director's shoes or be in a position where I can make decisions about how to balance these raids, I would personally increase the amount of gold that's given to new players, specifically players who have the Makoko buff. Again, I talked about this in my previous video, but I think that for a new player coming to play this game, if we were to give them more gold to incentivize them to keep playing and push their characters up further, it would be better for the longevity of the game. Giving it to players with the Makoko buff would ensure that 1, it's only the new players that are getting the increased amount of gold, and 2, once their Makoko buff runs out, they're actually going to be incentivized to go and play some group raids. That way you kind of have a way of easing them into the group raid setting from the solo raid setting. It's kind of like a graduation ceremony almost, right? The moment you lose your Makoko buff, that's when you graduate into the big boy raids. So yeah, overall, I really think that solo raids are a huge win, and I'm really glad they added it. I think that a lot of people really enjoy playing the game now. But again, there are definitely some issues with that system, and any system is going to have issues when it first comes out. So hopefully over time they will improve it and continue adding more raids. I guess the only question that we have left is, when are they going to add solo Theamine, right? So guys, those are my thoughts for solo raids. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. And as always, if you did, please let me know down in the comment section about your own thoughts. And also, if you want to see more videos like this, please remember to hit the like button, hit the sub button, ring the bell for notifications, and I stream every single day on twitch.tv/MeSexShrew. So hopefully I see you guys on my stream, but if not, hopefully I'll see y'all on the next video. Alright guys, peace out.